It's a case with an ending but no real resolution, which may be exactly why it still gets brought up whenever people talk about the gap between a performer's public warmth and whatever they are carrying that never makes it on screen. Paul Kelly is proof that Hollywood's capacity for forgiveness in the golden age had almost nothing to do with the severity of the crime and everything to do with whether a studio still believed you could sell tickets. In April 1927, Kelly, then a rising Broadway and silent film actor, confronted fellow performer Ray Raymond over Kelly's affair with Raymond's wife, actress Dorothy McKay. The confrontation turned violent. Kelly, considerably larger than Raymond, beat him badly enough that Raymond died of his injuries 2 days later. Kelly was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 1 to 10 years at San Quentin. He served roughly 25 months before being paroled. Then came the part of the story that made it a genuine Hollywood anomaly. Kelly went back to work. Not in disgrace, not under a pseudonym, but as himself, building one of the more durable character actor careers of the era, with credits stretching from Flying Tigers to Crossfire to a Tony-winning turn on Broadway 2 decades after his release. He eventually married Dorothy McKay, the very woman whose relationship with him had triggered the fatal fight. McKay herself had served a short sentence for helping conceal details about her husband's death. By the time Kelly died in 1956, much of the public had no idea that one of the industry's respected character actors had once beaten a man to death and served hard time for it. Talent, it turned out, could outlast almost anything, given enough years and enough hit pictures in between. There's an argument to be made that Kelly's second act worked precisely because the entertainment industry of the 1930s hadn't yet built the kind of permanent, searchable public memory that exists today. A conviction from a decade earlier could genuinely fade from casual awareness once enough new films and new headlines piled on top of it. Kelly never hid what had happened. He discussed it when asked, but he also wasn't required to spend his career answering for it in every interview the way a modern actor almost certainly would. His story became less a redemption arc and more a demonstration of how much easier it was, in that era, for a scandal to simply be outlasted by time and a full production slate. No case on this list better illustrates the difference between a courtroom verdict and a public one than Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle's. In September 1921, Arbuckle, then one of the best-paid stars in Hollywood, on a contract worth roughly what $14 million would be today, hosted a Labor Day party at San Francisco's St. Francis Hotel. A young actress named Virginia Rapp fell seriously ill during the gathering and died days later of peritonitis caused by a ruptured bladder. Sensationalist newspaper coverage manufactured lurid theories about what had happened in the hotel room, most of them medically unsupported. Arbuckle was charged with manslaughter and tried 3 separate times. The first 2 trials ended in hung juries. The third jury deliberated for only a few minutes before acquitting him, and took the unusual step of issuing a formal statement expressing regret for what he had been put through. Legal vindication did not translate into a career. The newly formed Motion Picture Producers and Distributors of America, under Censor-in-Chief Will Hayes, banned Arbuckle from the screen. The ban was technically lifted within months, but theater owners and studios kept their distance anyway. Contracts evaporated. Films already in release were pulled. Arbuckle spent the rest of the decade working behind the camera under the pseudonym William Goodrich because his own face and name had become box office poison. He was only beginning a tentative return to on-camera work when he died of a heart attack in 1933, at 46. Arbuckle was never a killer in the eyes of the law. He remains, in the eyes of history, Hollywood's first case study in how a scandal can convict someone the courts set free. The Arbuckle case did more than end one man's career. It reshaped how the entire industry policed itself. The scandal was one of the direct catalysts for the Hayes Office and, eventually, the Motion Picture Production Code, the self-censorship system that would govern what could and couldn't appear on American screens for the next 4 decades. In a strange way, Arbuckle's ruined career became the founding trauma of Hollywood's morality politics, proof to studio executives that public outrage, whether or not it was based on accurate facts, could destroy an asset faster than any court ever could, and that getting ahead of a scandal mattered more than waiting to see what a jury decided. Robert Blake had already lived an entire Hollywood career by the time most audiences knew his name. A former child actor from the Our Gang shorts who reinvented himself in the 1970s as the rasper-voiced title detective of Baretta.